Hey, what's up? I'm Britt, synonymous with Brittany Williams. I am currently pursuing my Bachelor's of Science in Recording Arts at Full Sail University. So, this presentation will essentially be a few of my intended career path choices to get me to be a sound designer. That is my dream job. That is essentially the final destination. And I will talk about a few of the jobs that I think that will help me to get there. And sometimes things are rerouted, but as long as you have a destination, you can still get there. And so this is just a plan, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. I hope this presentation is not only interesting to you, but maybe even a little informative. So hang in here with me, stay tuned, and I'll talk about three different jobs, and then I'll also discuss two inspirational gigs or people that I thought that were inspirational to me recently. And so this is again my pathway to success in the industry to become a sound designer. And so my first sweet gig or my first inspirational story is about a guy named Atlantic Connection. And he is a really cool guy. He is a DJ, a producer, and a musician. He's based in LA and he's pretty cool. So, a few things about him. His first name is Nathan Hayes, or his real name is Nathan Hayes. He was born and adopted from Colombia. He was raised in Boston, and his mom was actually a professor of music and a piano teacher. I think that's pretty cool. I thought that was a really awesome fact. He went to high school in North Carolina, and like I said previously, he's currently based in Los Angeles. So he said a few things that I thought was pretty cool, and one of them was the quote that we don't all have the same background, and that's what keeps this whole thing uniquely unpredictable. I thought that was a really cool quote, and I think that it holds true and is pretty relevant in today's society and just in life in general. So, a few of his accomplishments consist of a 6 year relationship with MTV. He had his own music track on an MTV series featured. He also plays yes, I said five instruments. And he has released numerous singles, EPs, and albums, as well as done some work on TV shows, some movies, commercials, and actually has toured several times. Something else that he said that I found to be pretty interesting is that now it's all come full circle. Producing and DJing, all of it, it's merged into one experience. Um, for me, that was like major, simply because as a person with, I guess, different talents or skill sets or interests, mostly, it sometimes feels like you have to put some things to the back or to the side, and I'm just excited that that's not the case here. So his process of making beats includes sometimes he just builds some nice drums and adds some different sounds until he finds a good vibe. Nathan also says inspiration for me has come from my experiences in life. He also says sometimes it's a melody in my head, and other times it's a sample I hear when listening to old soul and funk records. I think that a lot of musicians, artists, producers could all kind of relate to that. At least I can. My music is an internal expression of my external reception. It's how I process my life. That rings so loudly for me. And any person that is a lover of music or a fan of music or just interested in music in any way has probably in some way expressed what they felt internally or received what they felt internally from a song or some form of music or art. I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, he plays five instruments, which are the guitar, the violin, the bass, and the piano, as well as the saxophone. I thought that was impressive. Knowing theory and playing original riffs is extremely valuable, says Nathan with Atlantic Connection. I thought that was pretty cool. And not just that it was cool, that it it also is very true. So now I'll just show you a few things that myths that producer Atlantic Connection says that producers should know. He said people think that sample CDs are bad. Atlantic Connection says that they're great because the sounds are already clear. He also says that people think that making EDM beat-based music is simple. He said a lot of, but that's not true. Yeah, you can throw some loops together and download some construction stems, etc. But where's the creativity in that? Says Atlantic Connection. He says also people thinks that one DAW is better or worse than the other, and he kind of disagrees. He believes that if you should find and work with what works for you, and then use it to its fullest. He said you should still be pretty. People think that you should sit and still and be pretty serious while making your music. And Atlantic Connection says, no, dance around, empower yourself through your art. If you can't, why would anyone else? And that was pretty powerful as well. Because if you don't feel proud of what you make or what you create, if you don't feel empowered by what you create, then how could you ever expect someone else to feel empowered or want to be empowered by your art? That was very inspirational to me. He said, again, that it's all come full circle, the producing, the DJing, all of it. It's just merged into one experience. And I thought that was significant because sometimes you feel like maybe some things might come together, but again, you won't be able to utilize your skills, but he was able to find a way to merge them into one experience. And I thought that was a phenomenal feat. So there were many reasons why I chose Nathan Hayes, a myriad of them, but I listed 15 here, which is a pretty significant amount. So I'll just read off a few. So the main reason that I chose Nathan was because of the relatability and the level of inspiration that I received from the articles that I read about him and the research that I did on him. One of the reasons I chose Atlantic Connection is because, like him, I am also black, brown. It's always inspiring to see people that look like you in the places you aspire to be. It gives you more hope that if applicable and you qualify, that you can actually do it. And reinforcement of that never hurts. Also, he's a musician of multiple instruments. He grew up hearing theory and scales, and like him, I also played a few instruments, and I was the first trumpet player and drummer in concert band for 6 years, from 6th grade to 12th grade, and I did a few other things, and obviously now in college I'm still into music, and so I just thought it was cool to know that he grew up surrounded by music, and he found a passion and love for it and made a career out of it. He's also a strong believer and supporter of creator of original music, and obviously we share some similar views on its immense value. Number 5, that is one of the biggest ones for me randomly. He's a DJ. I've always wanted to learn to DJ so bad. I've always thought it was really cool. It is really cool to me. I've always wanted to learn, so yeah. And then he's also multi-talented, both creatively and technically. He had great career advice. He found a way to make his skills cohesive, which is a major key, as I've said several times, for me. He moved from the East Coast to make a life and a career in Los Angeles, and I plan to do the same. Maybe LA, maybe Atlanta, maybe somewhere else. I'm not sure exactly where I'll be located, but to know that he grew up in one place, moved and created a career and a life for himself in another place was really inspirational. And lastly, that I'll read right now, he released his own musical projects, and I plan to do the same. I thought that was awesome. And there's a few other ones. He had a cool sense of humor. He was able to put his music in movies, and that's something I really, really would love to do. And he had explanatory yet candid style of answering questions during the interview, and I thought that was cool. It's just, again, down to relatability. And ultimately, he wants to contribute to music in a way to benefit and propel it in a futuristic state, just like me. That's something that's very important to me. So that leads me to his next quote, which I thought was really powerful and simple. Contribute or peace out. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So yeah, he was very inspirational to me for obvious reasons that I explained. I think he's a really talented person. And just to be able to see some of the ways that he was able to navigate his career from college and to his professional life, and to see what he was able to do and how many different avenues he was able to go into using his skill set, and even seeing when he was ready and willing and able to pivot into a new skill set, or make sure he was licensed or certified or more knowledgeable in something different, just to add. I thought that was pretty cool. So that's essentially why I chose him. The next person I chose is super amazing as well. And this will be the last inspirational story I'll give, and then I'll get into exactly what it is that I want to do, and why I want to do it, or how I plan to get there. But her, pretty amazing. Her name is Jamie Stigliano, and she's a Pop Life artist manager, and she's really cool. This is her, and so here's a few facts about her. She was born and raised in Austin, Texas. She went to college at the University of Texas, and she's currently located in New York. Again, there's the ability to relocate and the ability to build a career and a life for herself in a new place. I thought was really awesome. And she said I grew up obsessed with pop brands, meaning Madonna, Michael Jackson, New Kids on the Block, Debbie Gibson. Being the person who kind of curates those artists' brands was a job that I wanted, says Jamie Stigliano. I felt her so much on that. I too grew up maybe in a different era, but still very, very much obsessed with some of those similar artists, obviously having respect for them to this day. And so a few of her accomplishments that I'll talk about include that she worked for years at Jive Records. She also worked for 15 years total on the label side of the industry. She ran a publishing company's digital division. She also launched the company's management department. She did some independent marketing, and she's managed multiple artists. Jamie says she realized her musical interest was a career option. I had this aha moment, like, wow, that's someone's job. I remember feeling like that, so I thought that was a pretty powerful quote. So again, that's a look at her accomplishments. And so for her, this is a look at what she believes artist management consists of, and from her experience, what it has consisted of for her. She says that it's multifaceted. You're dealing with sponsorships, branding, and licensing. You're serving as a 360-degree business partner and an entrepreneur, as well as, like I said, a business partner to your client. As a manager, she says you don't really have a job description. You're kind of just in charge of everything, like a chief executive of a company. Thought that was pretty big, because sometimes you go into just, oh, what's the job description or the role, and sometimes you have to lead, sometimes you have to follow, sometimes you have to do a little bit of it all. And I think that I thought that was pretty cool to kind of be blunt about. You don't really have a job description, you're just kind of in charge of everything. You're constantly on the road. It's your job as a manager to help your client or artist realize the vision, and also to help them achieve that vision. But as a manager, Jamie Stigliano says, as a manager, your number one job is to get the money. I thought that was cool, because ultimately everybody, you want to do a job that you would do for free, but you obviously want to get paid. And so to have a manager that understands that, I thought was really cool. She says when they make music, you're essentially their label as a manager. And I know I said she managed major talent, but she managed major talent. The CeeLo Green, obviously the talented, the amazingly talented is an understatement. CeeLo Green. She's also worked with Australian singer Cody Simpson. She's worked with British singer and songwriter Neon Hitch, as well as rock recording artist Masha. So she has a pretty eclectic roster, but also she says that as a manager, I'm very selective and intentional about my roster. So the fact that she has some big names as well as not listed a whole lot of names, I think that was intentional. And I think that maybe because of some of the things she said that she's learned the hard way. So, three things she's learned the hard way is respect the hierarchy. She said, you respect the people who are the head of a company. She said, and it may seem silly, but that's just how it's done. She said, also suggest get it in writing. She said, I had an artist play a show in good faith with someone I knew, actually, and we got screwed. Have things in writing to protect everyone. So to get screwed with someone you actually know, I think was a hard but very needed lesson. And she also says, timing with artists is everything. When you communicate something, both good and bad, the timing of it is critical. You better make sure you do it at a time that makes sense. She says lesson learned, and she specifically remembers getting ringed for it. So that's Jamie Stigliano. Something else she said is that it takes an army, get all the experience you possibly can. What can you do to help to be a resource? I thought that was really important, because oftentimes it's what can I do to benefit myself? How can I propel my career? What can I do to make myself better? What can I add to my, skill set? What can I add to myself? But what can you do to help? Be a resource. And just be genuine about your love for others in the business. I thought that was pretty powerful too, because oftentimes I meet people, especially some of the people that I have met from LA, they often say how sometimes they are not having as genuine experiences as they would like. So just to be genuine, I think will set a person apart, and that's something that I stand strongly on. So again, just like Atlantic Connections, there are 15 reasons why I chose her. The list could go on, but I'm sure 15 is more than enough, probably too much for some of you guys. But the reason I chose Jamie Stigliano is because, like her, I'm female, and the future is female. Let's go. I grew up listening to a lot of the same artists, like I said, and I still have a deep love and respect for those artists. She didn't know her musical passion could be a career until college, and I too had that aha moment, like, wow, that's someone's job. I remember feeling that way on a tour at Full Sail University, and now I am a student there to pursue some of those jobs. She was very intrigued and experienced with pop life, and to me, I just wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about her as well as pop life. I also chose Jamie Stigliano because, like I said, she's worked with the Gnarls Barkley, the CeeLo Green, and so although I have no desire to be an artist manager, I am an artist and who I may eventually need a manager. And it's very nice to get insight on what a manager actually looks for, what they need, and what they expect from an artist. How an artist can make the manager's job a little easier, and an understanding of what the job of the artist manager actually even is. Because as an artist, sometimes I think, or just as a creative, just as a person in general, sometimes it's easy to want things because you think that you should have it, but you're not fully aware of why you need them or how to be an asset in that situation. And so for me, this research and choosing her was had a lot to do with that. And she was seemingly transparent in her interview, and she was also informative yet blunt when necessary. And she just gave extremely good advice, especially through the 3 lessons that she expressed that she learned. And a few additional reasons I chose Jamie Stigliano is because, like I said, she's really cool, and she's an entrepreneur, and for myself and so many other creatives, that is a big part of our career, or will be a big part of our career if it is not already. So that was important. Like I said, she's also selective and intentional about her work, and I think that was important. She also said take as many opportunities as you can get, but also be selective and be intentional. And for me, that was good information and inspiration. Also, she has a knowledge of branding, sponsorship, and licensing, which are also very important to me. I don't think it's possible to be fully successful without a team of people or yourself having knowledge about all those things: branding, sponsorship, and licensing. as far as in the industry that I would like to pursue. And also, just speaking, she was able to speak about building and keeping and nurturing genuine relationships of all kinds. Um, and due to genuine interactions, I make connections easily, but I need to do a better job of following up so that I may nurture the future relationships and friendships and potential partnerships. Just because it's important to build a network, obviously, and it's just important to follow through. Because a lot of times I think that we create opportunities, we are blessed with opportunities, but if not following through, then I've not made that, um, you know, a resource really, and I'm not a resource for someone else. So that why I thought that was really cool, that she spoke about that, and touched on that in her interview. And also, she believes in constant communication in business relationships, stating that it's like a marriage. And I thought that was powerful. Like, if you want to know how deep it gets, it's like a marriage. So, those were the two people I chose. Those were the reasons I chose them. I hope that you enjoyed them. I enjoyed them very much. And I hope that it has been just as enjoyable for you. So now, let's get into the nitty gritty. So let's get into it. Let's get into the actual jobs, what I plan to do, how I plan to get there. Again, I want to be a sound designer. That is my dream job. And then there are 3 jobs that I will discuss, like I said, that will help me to get there. My career path, I guess, initially would start out with an audio technician. And so that will be an audio technician in live events. That will be the live industry. And so an audio technician has several jobs. So I'm sure most people's question is, what does a live audio tech do? Which is a great question. Let's get into it. What we do as an audio technician, I thought you never asked. Audio techs contribute to stage plays and concerts. They ensure that the audience enjoys each audible nuance, done by perfecting signal amplification and equalization with the art of blending each voice and instrument to produce the desired feel or emotional response. Audio techs work under the direction of front of the house manager, engineer, as well as the monitor engineer. So they're kind of like their managers, which is what I was trying to allude to. The duties that audio technician may have or will have will include, but are not limited to, loading in gear, organizing the work area, laying XLR cables, running audio snakes, setting up the console positions, testing mics, walking the room to confirm levels of front fills and subs, any necessary maintenance or repairs, installing backline gear, the musicians on stage amps and microphones. And as an audio technician, you are a member of the audio crew on a touring show. Take every job. That's the best advice that from the research that I did on the Get In Media website. That just kind of rang true from the sweet gigs, the inspirational stories, all the way through each job. Just take every job, take every opportunity that you can get. The continued duties as a tech, audio tech, would be serving as an instrument technician, fitting cast members with wireless microphones, and acting as a backstage assistant to the front of the house engineer during theatrical productions. They would be your responsibilities. So responsibilities can vary from one production to the next. Remember that. I just wanted to throw that in there. And for that position as an audio technician, you would need extensive training in sound and technology is required for this position, as well as a firm knowledge of sound amplification theory, frequency modulation, and electricity. That's also required. A college degree in technical theater or live production is recommended, but it is not required. And courses in recording arts and experience with digital consoles, Pro Tools, and wireless systems are very useful for this position. Those who move up the ladder are the go-getters. Network and foster positive relationships. I think it's as simple as it is stated. There is room for advancement in this position, because as an audio technician, this is a position in the sound department. It is the bottom of the totem pole position on any production crew. So I know I'll be taxed with lugging gear and pushing cases and all the other things no one wants to do. And I understand that I must persevere through the hazing ritual that is cleaning cable, as the research has showed me. I'm sure anybody in the industry is familiar with that. I have not yet been able to get into these positions, but it's very nice to know what to expect. Being on the bottom of the totem pole, how will I advance? So I will prove that I'm skilled and I have a strong work ethic and I have a sincere desire to progress. I'm confident that a better gig will come by. That's basically what the research was saying, as well as just it's life and experience. And it's saying after several successful shows as an audio technician, I can seek out opportunity as a drum tech or guitar tech, or a monitor engineer, or even a lead sound tech. And with the skills and experience acquired as an audio technician, I will be applicable for other jobs and be able to build on my skill set in audio, TV, and film, which will eventually propel me to my dream job as a sound designer, if I keep going. And I think that's the key in life, just in general. Just keep going. Just keep going. That's what I tell myself daily, and that's what I'll tell any person that, wants to aspire to be in any position, whether it be sound designer, a position 20 years into your career, or 20 days into school. Just keep going. But many opportunities for audio professionals also exist in the theme park industry, cruise ships, and with event production companies. Just throwing that out there for anybody who needs to know or wants a little information, extra information. I thought it was helpful for me. So the next job that I would like to do is a sound assistant, and that is in the TV and film industry. Thank you guys for sticking around and hanging in here with me for this presentation. It's a little extensive, but I hope you are getting a better understanding. So what does a TV and film sound assistant do? Well, what we do as a sound assistant, for a sound assistant, work begins on the first day of shooting. This technician will identify necessary gear, and that's outlined by the sound mixer, as well as prep some equipment. And the tech must recognize the difference in various types of microphones, the proper parameters to pick up the desired audio source. Just basically knowing where to put the mic, knowing what's the direction the mic picks up, and knowing the best placement for the desired audio. And in this position, there is definitely room for advancement, because some of the duties that you will do is support the function of the sound department, maintain audio recording equipment, help prep gear, operate a secondary boom, which I thought was pretty exciting, to be a pretty entry-level position. You will place microphones and run cables, ensure all components are in place and operating properly, strike the gear, and move the next setup to repeat the process. They're responsible for packing the truck neatly, because a hastily packed truck means time loss, or worse yet, damaged goods. And as an entry-level employee, I won't, and most people won't, have money to replace gear, which is very expensive, and you don't want to lose time or opportunity for yourself. And during photography, as a sound assistant, you pretty much are responsible for, again, packaging and properly labeling, and that would be sound rushes and various types of microphones, as well as, again, having knowledge of microphones and their intended use, as well as proper positioning of various microphones. So it's pretty similar. A sound assistant is the official noise police. So they say find the source of the sound issue and handle it quickly and quietly, even if that is people on set. So whatever that means, whether it's a piece of equipment that you need to troubleshoot, or making sure everybody's quiet on set, that's what a sound assistant will be responsible for. And so in this profession, you would need a training and operation of care of electronic and audio equipment, that is definitely required, as well as experience on set as a production assistant. It's actually not required, it's recommended though, and it's helpful, as well as a degree in film and television production. It's recommended but not required again. And the ability to move with a sense of urgency, but you must have patience. So I thought that was a cool oxymoron. So you kind of got to be able to move fast, but also be able to sit still and be patient. So those are some of the skills you would need to be a sound assistant. Most positions in this career field are freelance. So you must freelance, hustle, and work your connections for your gigs. Back to the networking portion, the necessity to take the opportunities that you can get and create the opportunities that you want. Again, there is room for advancement in this position because as a sound assistant technician, again, it is a bottom of the ladder position, but you do gain hands-on experience towards future career advancement. And of course, like other entry-level gigs, you must be ready to clean cables. So I'm glad to know through all the research, if you're starting out, know that we got to clean cables. So I definitely say it's room for growth if I'm still cleaning cables, which I'm fine with. But this is how I plan to advance. They say it's common for a sound assistant to be hired by a production sound mixer and move from one show to another with the same team. And if they like your work, they'll hire you to move with them. So I plan to work hard and smart, and I'll take advantage of opportunities to serve in my community as a sound trainee, like offered through the affiliation with the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. I also plan to apply for post-production positions in the sound department to become more qualified while doing some other research or just in a class here at Full Sail. I learned that there was a lot of post-production work in my hometown, so that's exciting. But ultimately, a good work ethic makes the best impression. And so I thought that was really good to know, because a lot of times it's like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? Work hard, you know? And so I thought that was pretty cool. And the last career that I think that will be helpful to help me to get into becoming a sound designer, which is my dream job, is becoming a re-recording mixer. And this job is actually in the music industry. By now, to be applicable, I'm sure I would have worked hard and be sleepy but happy in the studio. So yeah, this career is, again, it's actually not an entry-level career. What does a music re-recording mixer do? The re-recording mixer is responsible for pulling together the complete soundtrack, which I thought was pretty intense and maybe even a little intimidating initially, but that's something I really look forward to. And that's the complete soundtrack for film or TV, creating a cohesive sound, just so that the product seamlessly accompanies the images on the screen, to, I guess, emote the emotions that the director wants to. In a nutshell, the re-recorded mixer expertly fuses together the efforts of the Foley artist, the sound effects, the music, and the dialogue editors to refine all audio for technical and aesthetic quality. So all of the audio essentially is put together, mixed together by this person in this position. So the re-recording mixer works under the direction of the supervising sound editor and closely with the producer and director. So again, not so entry level this time, which I think after paying your dues and working the other gigs for some time, should be able to move up. As a re-recording mixer, some of the duties that you will have is mixing in the dubbing studio with a large mixing console. But the first task is mixing a soundtrack for audience previews of the show. And then you'll also be operating theater-style projection screens, and most importantly, finessing the audio, adding crossfades, balancing volume, and other things, obviously. You'll create the final mix after the director and the producer have locked the picture. And then you'll be mixing to 5.1 surround sound specs, which is obviously the industry standard. One must be capable of creatively mastering a soundtrack that will produce an emotional response complementary to the visual action. That is, in a nutshell, what a re-recording mixer is tasked with and responsible for. But the duties on a television show in the short format productions, a re-recording mixer would act as a ADR editor possibly, or have any combination of roles from a sound designer, by assuming the responsibilities of those positions, obviously. So to be able to even be an acting sound designer is very exciting for the job that that's the dream, that's the goal, that's the mission. There's no standard formula for mixing a great audio track. I thought that was a really powerful quote as well, because some people feel like you have the best answer or the only answer. There is no standard formula for mixing a great audio track. It takes intuition, experience, and technical know-how. So there are things we need to know, but there's also things that only come with experience. And then a lot of times, you have to also follow your intuition. And what you would need for this position, or what I would need for this position, is courses in recording arts and music production. They're extremely beneficial. And as a recording arts student and pursuing my bachelor's of science in recording arts, I thought that obviously I could be applicable for this position if I worked hard enough. A degree in film and television production with emphasis on sound editing and mixing is recommended for this career, but not required. But however, you must be proficient in the use of multiple dubbing studios and must be skilled in audio software applications and editing systems, and have an understanding of artistic and technical concepts of sound design. The editing process is generally as little as 2 weeks or as many as 12. So it can be a pretty lengthy process, depending on what the project is, or pretty quick. But although this position is not entry level, there is still very much room for advancement, because a re-recording mixer is generally employed full-time or part-time by a post-production sound studio. So at least now you're getting some more permanent employment, if that's what's important, which was exciting to me. But you can also work on a freelance basis, so it's kind of a balance, and you have options to, I guess, make more money, make more opportunity, and ultimately expand the network. In contrary to previously described positions, like I said, this is just a more permanent position, or opportunity for more permanent position. The significant responsibility of this position helps one to acquire prerequisites required to become a sound designer. So if I had all of the prerequisites to become a re-recording engineer, and I worked as this re-recording engineer for some time, re-recording mixer, I would be able to be applicable to become a sound designer, which I describe here. So as a re-recording mixer, I have the opportunity to advance as a supervising sound editor or a sound designer, or own my own studio. I will use my experience as an acting sound designer and many other relevant skills learned in the re-recording mixer position as a catalyst to apply for my dream job as a sound designer. And at this point, I'll be applicable, and I can apply. Finesse the audio. Like I said, that's the number one rule, the number one mission, the number one goal of a re-recording mixer. Synopsis of a sound designer: what it takes in a nutshell to become a sound designer, which is the dream job, which is the mission, which is the goal, which is where I'm going, which is where I'm headed. Coppola defined the role of a sound designer as an individual ultimately responsible for all aspects of a film's audio track, from the dialogue and sound effects recording to the re-recording mix of the final track. This role requires an individual who is artistically talented as he or she is technically proficient. Again, that's back to that creative and technical, being able to balance the two and find a job a career where I'm able to find a cohesive path. I thought that was really interesting. And so a sound designer is often asked to create a new world of sound, says sound designer Ben Burtt. Which, if you don't know who he is, you should definitely look it up. I'm sure if you know about sound designing, then you definitely know who he is. But to create a whole new world of sound, I thought was a very profound way to state what your profession is, because like sound in itself is so immense. So to create a new world, it's really big. And so the duties of a sound designer is to take on additional responsibilities of the supervising sound editor, the re-recording mixer, or other related roles, which I thought was cool that they were kind of not interchangeable, but they were able to be, the positions were relevant, very relevant to each other, that you would act as either the re-recording mixer or the sound designer. As a sound designer, you will be responsible for a thorough reading of the script. You will conceptualize the audio aesthetic of the film or show. As a sound designer, I also will contribute certain sounds under the images to reflect a mood and theme. I will identify specific sound, effects, or qualities that the director wants to capture, as well as create a script breakdown that highlights the 3 primary types of sounds effects. Those sound effects, of course, are atmosphere, spot, and sound design effects. And as a sound designer, I must be artistically able to manipulate the recorded sound using software plugins, synthesizers, and audio samplers. Thankful and thank God for Full Sail University, I have been able to be very highly exposed to a lot of these things, as well as obviously when I get into the profession, I'll be able to learn all the things that's necessary for this position. You will be tasked with monitoring the sound department pipeline as a sound designer, and just keeping the crew on schedule and on budget. It's pretty as simple as that, on top of the tasks that you'll be required to do. Just making sure everybody else is staying on point and on task with the things that they need to do. Also, as a sound designer, the things that I would need to be able to even apply for the position would be a college degree in film and television production or recording arts. It's not required, but it's highly recommended. Also, to become a sound designer, you would typically rise from the rank after several years of experience in sound editing, or as a re-recording mixer or production sound mixer. So it sounds like I would be on the right path. As a sound designer, I would need to seek experience in the post-production sound department in a junior capacity. That's actually required as a prerequisite to become a sound designer. So time on set is helpful, and must be an expert in sound recording and editing with a firm understanding of acoustics and audio manipulation technology. This person is also senior level manager, and therefore must be highly organized and able to prioritize tasks for a crew under strict deadlines. So that is definitely important to understand and maintain. And I think if I start that now in my college career and make sure that I have that same spirit and ethic in my work, in my professional life, I can get here. I know I can get here. So that is basically what I want to do, how I plan to get there, and a few things that have inspired me along the way. I've looked at all of my sources. Basically all came from one website, which was the Get and Media website. They had different authors, some different dates, and yeah, it's definitely, if you have not yet, check out the Get and Media website. And this is my presentation of what I want to do and my pathway to success, and to becoming a sound designer in the industry. So I really do appreciate you guys for sticking around for this very, very long time, and just being able to kind of connect with me. And thank you for allowing me to connect with you and explain what it is that I want to do. And I hope that maybe as I explain what has inspired me, that maybe, just maybe, I could be an inspiration to someone else. And hopefully one day you'll see me, or at least hear me, design a sound for something. Have a good day. Enjoy.